And as Sky looks to be more involved with IndyCar and deliver that to a UK audience, and we look to the 2022 IndyCar season, we've had the first 2 races now, and in both of those, it's looked like the Penske cars and specifically Scott McLaughlin have taken a real kind of charge towards this championship. How did you view those first 2 races of this IndyCar season?
Well, it's a big year for Penske, wasn't it? I think they went 8 or 9 races last year without a win, their worst start to a season for as long as I can remember. They downsized from 3 to 4 cars, and they lost Gavin Ward as well to Arrow McLaren SP. And there are a lot of changes behind the scenes. So there was a few question marks, but you can never, ever underestimate Penske. And I don't think anyone did. It was just a case of, well, you've got to go out and do it. They finished last year reasonably strongly. Joseph Newgarden, who had a difficult start to the year, took it to the final round. So all credit to him, almost flew under the radar. And listening to him pre-season, he sounded so confident. And it wasn't that sort of bravado that you tend to get, that sort of PR speech pre-season. There was a genuine belief. You're really bought in to what it was he was saying and how he was communicating. So it's not a surprise that they are at the front. But the big surprise is it's Scott McLaughlin who's leading that charge, albeit pipped at the post in heartbreaking circumstances. If you're a Scott McLaughlin fan or a motorsport fan, you really felt for him, didn't you? Led 106 laps and just caught David Malukas, the lap car, at the wrong time, and that slowed his momentum. And Newgarden, who just had a bit more grip underneath him on that front axle, was able to get on the throttle earlier through 4 and go around the outside and pip him to the line. It was 6/1000ths of a second, wasn't it? So 6/100ths of a second, I think. So Scott McLaughlin spearheading that Team Penske charge is a bit of a surprise. And he's done it before. He's done it in a very competitive championship. He's got a wonderful way about him. And we interviewed him before Texas, and just his speech around being mindful and the amount of work that goes into that sort of mental preparation, preparing to be the best that you can be on arguably the largest days of your career. So he's very switched on, and it's just a case of bringing that formula and that strength and understanding of self into the IndyCar, a very different environment to what he's used to, but he's making the transition very, very well. I mean, unthinkably well, really. It's such a different discipline to go from a big Aussie V8 to a single seater. And you've only got to look at the struggles Jimmy Johnson's having to underpin and cement what a wonderful job Scott McLaughlin's doing. And
then for the Sky F1 viewers, particularly in the UK, coming as new fans to IndyCar, a name they're going to recognise is Romain Grosjean, and he's driving the Andretti car that are looking to put up a significant challenge to Penske, another big team, big budget team in the sport. How have you looked at Romain Grosjean's transition there? Because the 2021 season, it was quite fascinating for me. To be honest, it was kind of the first time I'd watched IndyCar race by race and really understood the dynamic of the whole championship. But seeing the 3 rookie badges on the timesheet next to Jimmy Johnson, Scott McLaughlin and Romain Grosjean being the rookies, seeing how they're going to adapt and their inexperience in IndyCar was really fascinating, because you got to see this test of how they adapted to the different scenarios. And I think Grosjean exceeded expectations in a long way with his qualifying pace and his race performances towards the end of the year. So how have you looked at his success over there in getting promoted to a top team?
Yeah, I think like Scott McLaughlin, he's a really intelligent chap, Romain Grosjean, and he's got a huge amount of experience, but he brings a level of professionalism, but he's got that ability to free up his plate. So he can drive very, very quickly, but also free up the plate and understand the strategy and what's going on around him. He was very, very quick, which wasn't a surprise last year. And it's going to be interesting to see how he goes on the ovals this year. I mean, he really struggled for confidence in the early stages at Texas. You could see he can run a quick lap, but talking to all the rookies, they all pinpointed Sunday as a very, very different dynamic to the speeds that they'd run on the test days and qualifying. because actually doing that in a pack and or with the opportunity of a second lane as well is very, very different. And you could see he was professional and cautious, because very easy to fence it and dent your own confidence, because when you do fence it at 220 miles an hour, you're not quite as quick as you were before. And I always remember one or two Americans saying to comments I've made where, well, look, you know, he's super fast, and they'll always look at me and say, well, he hasn't hit the wall yet. And what they mean by that is once you've taken a big hit, it really does dent your confidence. And so he didn't take any unnecessary risks. He used all his experience and was let down with a mechanical failure. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes on the ovals. Andretti are under a bit of pressure in my eyes this year as well, because they're underperforming. And that might sound harsh, but that's the reality of the situation. And it's only Colton Herta that can really drag that car back up to where it needs to be, and you know, give the team an opportunity for big points. They need to be sure that they can run 3 cars at the front, like we saw Penske doing at the weekend. And on the ovals, since the introduction of the aero screen, they've not been able to do that. And that's the long and the short of it.